dear. I'm the owner of Woodford Square. High-low supermarkets, all is mine. You can get your goods free anytime. And I'm going to the moon in July. Bye-bye, that woman could lie. She damn lie. I don't know why Elsina feels she put full terror. I don't know why Elsina feels she put full terror. Because day after day the woman was saying, she man named Henry Ford from the USA. I say who? She said the man makes a motor car. That is my man, he's a millionaire. He just gives me money, I don't take. I say plenty money. She say wait, money by the buckets, because I love him, I won't take it. Don't doubt me. If I tell you something, there you go ball. He does give me motor cars and all, and he watching me straight in the eye. Oh my lord, that woman could lie. She damn lie. I haven't a thing to give Elsina, but yet she says she loved her. I said, darling, you can't fool me, because no love without money. Men like Henry Ford and Paul Getty have money that they could full up the sea. So don't try to fool up my brain with lie. You know the woman gets across and they start to cry. She say they gives money, I don't take. I say plenty money. She say wait, money by the buckets, because I love them, I won't take it. Don't doubt me. If I tell you something, there you go ball. They just give me motor cars and all, and she watching me straight in the eye. Oh my lord, that woman could lie. She down lie. Last time I met Elsina at Shaka Cubana, she said this place belonged to me. Tara, do you love the scenery? I said yes, honey bunch, I am proud and glad to know you own a nice portion of Trinidad. She said I can bring the receipt to show. I bought it from my Indian in Miaro. I have my own courthouse, did you know? I have in my own jail tomorrow. And I would never lie to you, dear. I'm the owner of Woodford Square. High-low supermarkets, all is mine. You can get your goods free anytime. And I'm going to the moon in July. Bye-bye, that woman could lie. She damn lie. Elsina, she put full terror, because day after day the woman was saying, she man named Henry Ford from the USA. I say who? She said the man makes a motor car. That is my man.
Rowley, it's Elsina. That man could lie. Rowley could realize Elsina is joke, as well as of course the Lord Nelson. Lion the liar. He has beaten all of them. I'm talking about Rowley here. Let's say some caricature. And let's lampoon Rowley. Look at him in his, of course, his gestures, his body language when he delivers the lies. Listen to this.
But yet, she says she loved her. I said, darling, you can't fool me, because no love without money. Men like Henry Ford and Paul Getty have money that they could full up the sea. So don't try to fool up my brain with lie. You know the woman is across and they start to cry. She say they gives money, I don't take. I say plenty money. She say wait, money by the buckets. Because I ain't love them, I won't take it. Don't doubt me. If I tell you something, there are you go ball. They just give me motor cars and all. And she watching me straight in the eye. Oh my Lord, that woman could lie. She down like.
That reminds me of Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. Dishonest, evil, wicked, diabolical, and a man who will tell a lie on himself and believe it. It's obvious. And remember, a liar doesn't have any memory. Well, he was able to deliver lies upon the lies, upon the lies, upon the lies he told before. And as if we are stupid and we have a 9 days mentality, and we will not, of course, detect and, of course, convict him for his mendacious and his proclivity to engage, of course, in mendacious as well as prevarications of an unlimited degree and nature. Watch him in the background.
Bye-bye, that woman could lie. She down line.
Every time you hear, of course, Alcina, just say Rowley. Just say Rowley. That man could lie. That man could lie.
So don't try to fool up my brain with lie. You know the woman gets across and they start to cry. Say they gives money, I don't take. I say plenty money. She say wait, money by the buckets. Because I ain't love them, I won't take it. Don't doubt me. If I tell you something, there are you go ball. They just give me motor cars and all. And she watching me straight in the eye. Oh my Lord, that woman could lie. She down like. Last time I met Elcina at Shaka Cubana, she said this place belonged to me. Tara, do you love the scenery? I said yes, honey bunch, I am proud and glad to know you own a nice portion of Trinidad. She said I can bring the receipt to show. I bought it for my engine in Miaro.
That is Rowley's self. Lying to himself and believing his lies.
I would never lie to you, dear. I'm the owner of Woodford Square. High-low supermarkets, all is mine. You can get your goods free anytime. And I'm going to the moon in July. Bye-bye, that woman could lie. She down line.
Was a big lying competition to see who they will crown as lying champion. Liars from all parts of the West Indies, big shot liars from all them foreign countries. From a feel about 1,000 or so entry in 2 days, he boiled down and leave just 3. I had me eye on liar the lion.
It boiled down and leave just one. King liar, King Como, political and otherwise. Opportunistic and have a tendency not just to be naturally dishonest, dishonorable, corrupt, and evil, but has a proclivity nestled in lies to tell us that others are the corrupt ones, while of course 3 fingers are pointing back at him. You just take your index finger and point at someone and see what is the natural repercussions, and that is 3 fingers Your middle finger, your ring finger, and your little finger simply automatically points back at you. That is Rowley. But let's hear this lion, thieving, ugly son of a gun.
When you're talking about fish, you just hit the spot. I was hoping you did believe it or not. The fish your father caught, to you it was great. But it's them small fish my father does use for bait. Lion went ahead on points in the show. Completely eliminated Mr. Depot. The next man to beat was Will the Outrageous. He asked the judges if he could lie first. The judges asked Lion. The Lion agreed. Say any topic Will pick is alright with me. He outrageous, I strong. Let we meet head on. And when we done, see who head fit to wear the crown. You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You hear lie?
Teacher Percy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die.
Let it go. Let it go. Shook it up. Yep.
And indeed, all of them, the entire blasted cabinet, are total and consummate and habitual and almost chronic, if not chronic, but certainly pathological liars. All of them. They lied to keep Rowley where he is. Rowley lied to stay where he is. And we are going to examine that. You see, on the last occasion, I gave way so that you can make your own assessment. But because tonight I do not have the benefit of calling tonight again, because of WhatsApp difficulty, but you would hear the echo in the background, as I said on the ground report this morning. I am still alone, and the reverberations are very poignant, and of course, extremely voluminous, because I can hear myself echoing inside this empty room. But I promised that tonight we should have been, of course, over on George Street. I assure you, tomorrow night we will be on George Street. Who knows? The ground report may well be projected from George Street in the morning. Because after tonight, we continue, of course, to mop up, so to speak, to, of course, transfer to George Street the last vestige or the last pieces of equipment and furniture, so that we begin, of course, firmly on George Street. And today was a wonderful one. I want to say, of course, to the hardware that came forward, talking about Lena, talking about Ogis, talking about, yes, Bhagwan Singh. Yes, they came forward. They assisted us, of course, with the plumbing, assisted us with the electrical installations that are required. But that is not all, and we have not yet completed. There are others we expect to come on board, and we are going to have eventually, I have faith, in an ultra-modern building that is suited for contemporary, not just delivery of information, but also the admiration of the recipients and the national community that over the years, having been, of course, committed to the truth, first and foremost, and to, of course, in the process, delivering to you that which is untruth or that which attempts by way of deception, delusion, innuendos, and frank and unadulterated lies coming out of this administration. And let me begin one time to say and to pick some of the prevarications and the attempt to further to deceive, even though it is an exercise in futility. The people know Rowley and them. Rowley and them had to be damn asses to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. He's so damn stupid that, of course, even his inferiority complex is more complex than one would have thought, because it is steeped in even greater inferiority. To see a big man like that holding a huge office as prime minister and is unable, of course, to command an audience, and the audience that he would have commanded was one of octogenarians, the people 80 years and above, or septuagenarians, the people 70 years and above, or sexagenarians, persons that are 60 years and above. In other words, the people who are in their twilight of course, their lives on this earth, and having achieved their 3 scores and 10, but of course attempting to influence the rest of us, those of us who still have a substantial part of our lives to, of course, not just manifest and to experience, but to, of course, generate the transformation that is required. Having regard, of course, to the paltry and the wicked, diabolical, evil, Luciferian, as well as, of course, total incompetence, impotence of a group of individuals. How much of them? 20 of them? What, 24 of them? Of course, Dr. Rowley will tell you that his cabinet is smaller than Kamala Prasad Missa's, but he telling you about the kitchen cabinet. He telling you about that. People who, of course, pursue the evil agenda of this administration, all of which have resulted in failure. The most recent, of course, I better play it for you because I don't want you to believe by any notion, by any stretch of the imagination, that this is about vendetta, and this is about, of course, the manifestation of something that it was not steeped in, of course, not just objectivity, not just reality, not just the truth of our circumstance, but to further deepen the fact that we have identified this administration as one that it is so indolent, so lazy, so incompetent, that when Gonzalez, the Minister of Public Utilities, recently told us that they dig well here and they dug well there, and they, of course, provide water 24/7. He is now telling us, conserve water. And if you only use a hose, it's thousands of dollars you have to fork out if you use a hose at this time. Just the other day, he went to Tobago and he was saying, of course, a 24/7 water. I mean, these fellas are blighted to what I consider to be a degree that is yet to be, of course, contemplated or manifested in human circumstance. They are simply liars ad nauseum. Ad nauseum. I think I better go there. Let me show you what, of course, Gonzalez said recently about the water supply in Trinidad and Tobago. You will be not just amazed, but you will be at the same time struck with, of course, the temptation to laugh at them. They are simply unfit for office. Because you must know that January, moving forward in this country, a dry season is coming. Why would you just the other day say that the water supply is going to be improved and people are knocking pans and drums all over the place? The police, of course, are getting on ruthless to prevent people from protesting for that God-given life-saving commodity called water. Listen to this buffoon in an interview. Listen to him.
water supply can be equitably distributed as far as possible to WASA's. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carrie Roberts. Welcome to TTT News. In our first story tonight, the restrictions imposed by the Water and Sewerage Authority is geared towards ensuring that the country's water supply can be equitably distributed as far as possible to WASA's commercial, industrial, and domestic customers. Minister of Public Utilities Marvin Gonzalez says most of the surface water in Trinidad is located in the northeast, while central and deeper south or west don't have large volumes of water that comes
We
from
all knew that.
rainforests or watersheds.
60% of WASA's water comes from streams, intakes, rivers. In the middle of the dry season, the water levels in our rivers and our streams and intake, they drop drastically. And when you have harsh, dry conditions, as we have been experiencing at this point in time, which started very early in January, 60% of that water, as I've said, that comes from those sources, they are no longer available to the authority. So as we speak today, WASA does not have 18 million gallons of water that it normally would have in normal rainy season.
Mr. Gonzalez says the situation could have been worse. However, last year, WASA was able to drill 9 wells and constructed 2 new water production facilities, which added 5 billion gallons of water to the authority's distribution and transmission system. He explains further what the restrictions mean.
The restriction means that if you're accustomed to getting water 24/7, you might start getting water 24/5, 5 days a week or 4 days a week. And why? Because that 3 days that you would no longer be getting water, just by way of an example, that water now has to be redistributed to communities that are not getting a proper service.
As for the hose ban and the $75 fine for the use of hoses during the restriction period, the minister says the penalty is under review.
It is a fine that was placed, quite a long time ago in the WASA Act. And like other aspects of the Act, it needs to be updated. I don't think, quite frankly, it is high enough to create that deterrent for persons from wasting water.
I think we better pause there. We have heard enough. We have seen enough. We understand how nincompoopish these guys are. Because just the other day, he was boasting about how much more water to be added. Politicking, Self-aggrandizement, Projecting a confidence that only they would have had by lying to themselves. And then today, you are telling us that the amount of water that you normally would have, you cannot have because of the dry season, as if, of course, that is something that is new, and as a minister, ought to have known, and therefore temper your optimism. Especially when you know how blighted this PNM is, how blighted Rowley is, how all of them are cursed. And so they come with a straight face and pretending to be humble and looking for sympathy. There shall be no sympathy for the PNM, for the evil that they would have done to this population, of course, over the next 12 months. And of course, we have already consumed at least 2 of them. January and February have already gone. Yes, indeed, it will be 12 long hot. Whether, of course, rain come or not, it will be hot for them. They must understand that they cannot, of course, do evil to the people. And they could just relax. And it's no big deal. And they could say one thing yesterday, a different thing the day after, and then several months after, if not weeks, tell us something totally different to the last 2 times that they would have said something, as Rowley did, of course, in Chaguanas recently. I tell you, I ain't put it together yet because I want us to have the benefit of the telephone so that you can call in. But I can assure you the PNM has gone to the dogs because even at that skiffle Panyard, where that public meeting took place, and they were so dissatisfied with that public meeting that the UTAM had to have another meeting over the weekend in order, of course, to sort of make up and to make it look solid that the PNM had some kind of occasion for over 2 days. But I suppose it's nothing different to Rowley boasting that he will have, of course, an election process for leadership of over 2 days. And then it turned out that it would have required less than a day to get less votes than Kamala Persad-Bissessar, who took 1 day and got more votes than Rowley in the UNC's internal elections. I mean, it's total madness. The insanity knows no boundary with these people. And they continue, of course, to not only aggressively boldface, telling us what the facts are, as if we don't know. How the hell could Gonzalez believe that he could insult our collective and individual intelligence by telling us that most of the water collected for, of course, distribution for human consumption is surface water? We know that. We know we have, of course, three reservoirs. We know that. We know annually that there is a reduction when, of course, the dry season comes. We know that. The problem with this administration that even when the rainy season comes and there's an oversupply, they can't even deliver the 24/7 that they talk about so glibly. And so, of course, what I consider to be contemptuously, because they never deliver, but of course will tell us that things are working fine, only to their imagination and telling lies to themselves. Another, of course, a dimension with respect, of course, to lies. They have, of course, generated a Guinness Book of Records scenario for lies. But let's get back, of course, to Rowley, because I did, in fact, promise that I will do an evaluation, hoping that tonight I would have had the benefit of your input by way of telephone, but that is all right. And for that as well, of course, we will complete a little earlier tonight as well, because we have to do some work after to continue to complete as far as we can, at least 99.9, let me put it that way in terms of percentage, the moving to George Street. So we'll do so tonight. But before we do that, let us identify some of the areas that Rowley not just plundered, not just attempting to insult us, not only, of course, did he lie, in other words, but attempting, of course, to gain some kind of cheaper political points that what never existed, never was, and will not be moving forward. The man came back with Rishmi Ramnarayan. Let me start there. All of us know that was a storm in a teacup. All of us know that issue was quickly remedied by the UNC. But when the PNM, and as Rowley would have said, and it brings me to my second, of course, notion with respect, of course, to the lies that he delivered in unexpected but very characteristic rapidity and furious. So he talked about, of course, the Rishmi matter. And he tried to give the impression that somehow that was connected to corruption. And that he asked the most, of course, rhetorical of questions about his administration, whether or not anybody in the PNM have been, of course, questioned by the police as far as corruption is concerned, and claim phantasmagorically that no member of his government, I mean, yes, it is ludicrous, it is laughable, It is hilarious. It's as if these fellas want to take over Larry Joseph, and maybe because he is sick. But we have Larry Joseph, and we also have, of course, our very veteran and iconic comedian, a former postman, who's also a Joseph. And I can tell you that Rowley and they are knocking on the doors and are very close to becoming the comedians of Trinidad and Tobago, nationally, regionally, and hemispherically and internationally. They are simply amazingly stupid to be telling stories of that nature, and we as a population, knowing differently, expect us to consume. And let me tell you this, in my home, Rowley as a rapist and a pedophile, nobody listens to him. None of the children, except me, of course, for the purposes of what we are doing tonight. That's all. That's all. But outside of that, that blasted rapist and pedophile and political kobo and a total rapscallion, undeserving of being prime minister, and he's in our faces, bold-facedly. He reminds me, of course, of the typical criminal. When you go to remand yard or remand yard, everybody there that say that they're not guilty, you know. You just have to ask them what they say you do, you know. Because they're always not guilty. Well, Rowley and his team reminds me of that. Those group of persons. Until, of course, the evidence come to reality and bear on the proceedings during, of course, the trials, whether it be in the magistrate's court or the high court or the court of appeal or the privy council, as the case may be, our apex court. That's what they remind me of. They always never do. Rowley ain't corrupt. He raped the little girl, but a child was produced. You want to tell you? He say he raped, but the child was produced. Yeah, talking about, of course, Gat Allen, yes. He raped, but the child was produced. And he would obfuscate, and he would try to, of course, exculpate himself, and try to, of course, to generate a moral and ethical standard that could only be a perversion of such standards. Perversions. That is the nature of the beast that we are dealing with. But thank God 2025 will come. He could jump high, he could try to taunt, he could try to say that it is an important election, he could try to say that, of course, election is upon us, he could try to say that elections has consequences, and all of the hogwash as we have heard him. He told us, of course, yes, elections have consequences indeed. And in the 2015 and 2020 elections has produced the most brutish, the most hostile, the most evil, the most diabolical, the most wicked, the most heinous, the most self-serving, the most corrupt, the most nepotistic, the most acrimonious administration in terms of their political position. Because, of course, as soon as somebody tell them the truth about the administration, they are quick, of course, to respond with venomous and, of course, extreme excoriating statements that if you do not have a stable mind and thought, you think of other things to do them. Because Rowley will hold nothing short or back to try to, of course, salvage that which is unsalvageable. I am referring here to his character, personality, and the administration of the PNM under this man. A criminal enterprise. A criminal enterprise, people. Let us not waste time. Yes, I'm sweating, but that's all right. As I said, we are moving to other facilities. And let's hope, so we don't have even a fan in studio now. So you'll hear my reverberations, I'm sure. And because I'm a loudspeaker, and I like, of course, to articulate my words in such a way that every syllable is understandable. And if you have, of course, a good command or a wide vocabulary, you'll be able, of course, to follow through. But even if you are not, I've always said that what will happen, any complex word will be followed by a more simple one. You just have to listen. So if I talk about ignorant, and I talk about, of course, lack of knowledge, or I talk about omniscience, all-knowing, or I could talk about eruditic, and then you know it refers to, of course, the whole question of edification. Edification, people. And so Rowley, of course, went on his torrent, rambling all over the place, and like a rolling stone gathering no moss. And like, of course, the Greek mythology, Cephas, the Cephian rambles that he, of course, was engaged in, similar to the curse that Cephas was, of course, subjected to by the gods. And he was, of course, banished to rolling a big stone up a mountain. And every time, because his task would have been completed when he would have, of course, been able to not only reach the peak or the zenith of that particular mountain, but to have the stone by way of gravity on the other side plunge descendingly into the valley under. But every time he reaches almost the peak, the zenith, the apex, the stone somehow slips and rolls right back down into the valley floor. And he has, of course, to start the process all over again. That is Rowley under the PNM today. It is Cephian. It is, of course, a stereotypical of this administration. They come, they speak, they fail. They then, of course, generate narrative to describe the failure, look for sympathy, and then give you another version that is saturated with potential success. Potential here is operating with potential, because they are always optimistic, and then it fails again, and then the cycle continues. So in the case of crime and criminality, he went, of course, to talk about Kamla Prasad Bisesa and, of course, the institution of a state of emergency. And somehow that was bad compared to his situation, where on three occasions, each one overwhelming of the other, or greater than the other. Record numbers of murders. And he wants to talk about Kamla Prasad Bisesa, even in those circumstances where the murder rate that she inherited, because that was 2011. Remember that. That is important. It is important, people, you understand, because what he attempts to do is to try, of course, to equate and to equalize and to say that crime and criminality is a phenomenon that nobody, of course, could address, and therefore don't ask him to address these matters. That is what Rowley said, the mad, blasted man that he has turned out to be. The man is a total insane prime minister. We must put it in context. And the context is that during, of course, the NAR, the preceding NAR administration that left office in 1991, when Manning and they spewed lies and deception, with him being a part and parcel, an intrinsic part of those propaganda that the people swallowed up and displaced the NAR administration by 1991. I will not be surprised, as they did with the Calcutta ship, as they did, of course, with influencing Sherman McNichols, the then Attorney General, in the Pandey matter, that threw the book at Pandey. John Jeremy was the Attorney General at the time. And what is common? They orchestrate, they plan, and they deliver most despicable, ruthless, brutal, reckless. And I want to tell you this before, of course, I give you another example that is more conscientiously aware by you or of you. And that is the most recent version of that approach to unmerited access and wanting to be in office and power mongering. Cult My Foot is a criminal enterprise exhibiting criminal behavior and conduct actions that are criminal in nature. We're talking about what? Puyerem is a cult? No, it's a criminal enterprise of a mafia nature. That is what I will accept. The most recent, of course, maybe one greater than the other, but nonetheless, certainly are the hallmarks, are the characteristics, are the stereotypical of this evil organization called the PNM. And that is why we have to get rid of the PNM itself, because those who are found themselves hitched to this criminal enterprise, they cannot do better, because their whole reason for existing is to try to get into government at all costs, and it does not matter whether or not it is morally correct or whether or not they engage in criminal behavior. The latest, of course, that you will remember is the Vincent Nelson matter. You cannot forget that. They set up, they undermine the judicial and the legal processes in this country. It is called the subversion of the criminal justice system in order to entrap Anand Ramlogan and Ramdeen. I hold no brief for them. All I'm saying that there is a process, and Rowley and them can't wait for the process to take its course, because if it takes its course in normal circumstance, Ramdeen and Anand Ramlogan would have never been arrested. And so here comes Rowley and the PNM and their subverters and their underminers in big offices in this country to undermine the process so as to achieve the objective of making it look as though Ramdeen and Anand Ramlogan are thieves. And they want it big and large. and embarrassing so that they could pretend to be, of course, pristine, that they are immaculate, that they have no sins among them. But as with Jeremy and Pandey, it backfired. But that didn't stop them, because one would have expected that with the precedent of Pandey, that Rowley and they would have been much more circumspect, much more respectful of the process. But no, they disregard and they influence the process to achieve one objective of attempting to stay there in office by the power-mongering agenda to appear to be people, but they are beast and evil and what I consider to be satanic in human form. All of them. Let's not waste time. That is what they have done. So they've done it over and over, so we know. And that is why the argument must be that the entire PNM unholy, devious, vindictive edifice should be destroyed. I am talking here, they must be dealt a political blow second to none. It must make the 1986 results look like play in the park, child's play. And they're lucky they get, of course, Tobago, 1 seat. I say they should get none in Trinidad. Trinidad has the duty and responsibility to set the example that that kind of undermining of our democracy and that kind of dictatorial and, of course, brutal approach to ordinary citizens or not so ordinary citizens in order to remain on top of the political pile unmeritoriously and telling us what? That you are a stable party. And what again? That you make harsh decisions that others would make. No. It is because of your brutal disrespect for democracy and your criminal enterprise orientation that you can make such decisions. Who in Trinidad and Tobago will accept a man who, of course, said that property tax was the worst thing since sliced bread and oppose his own boss, Patrick Manning, on that score and on that principle, and then today telling us that somehow we the population voted for that, and here it is, we are talking louder tonight. And I'm sure if we had the benefit of the telephone, I know that some of you are just waiting to vent. This man is an ass and a half. This man is an nincompoop of unprecedented degree. This man is a criminal extraordinaire. This man is a deceiver, a pretender, and one that is so inimical to the interests of Trinidad and Tobago that it defies words and explanation. In other words, it is almost ineffable. Ineffable. Cannot be explained. How you can arrogate unto yourself that you must prescribe, all of which are inimical to the interests of the ordinary person in this country, whether it be the price or the cost of living, whether it be employment opportunities, whether it be macroeconomic indicators, whether it be the microeconomic indicators, whether it be our foreign policy, whether it be the question of agriculture and, of course, attempting to feed ourselves, but at the same time, growing food and doing the right, what I consider to be motivation in order for us to look domestic, in order to generate this substitute that is required so that our $4 to $6 billion a year US spent on food, imported food, could be reduced. And where, of course, infrastructure is concerned, he has the audacity, the temerity, the gall, the effrontery to tell us that he was too busy saving us from COVID. 5,000 persons lost their lives. But he was too busy killing people to focus on potholes that caused the deaths of others, I'm sure, by way of freak accidents, by the destruction of the wear and tear of vehicles. That murderous deceiver. Yes, we need to tell it as it is. There's no other way. And just in case you have doubts, and you still believe that somehow there is credibility in that cadre of conspirators, unpatriotic, treasonous group of individuals assembled by Rowley, I want to tell you, look at Balize House. Look at Balize House, and all of your answers is reposed there. And there is no need for further questioning as to the inescapable conclusion that you must draw. Inescapable conclusions that you must draw. But before we go there, of course, we have to look at people at making $1 in Trinidad, and to, of course, sustain our program. And we are not asking all the time to beg. What we are saying is to those persons who own businesses and so on, and you want to advertise, and give us an opportunity to advertise with us so that we can earn the resources in order to improve the research capacity and the deliverability that, of course, you have grown accustomed to in terms of quality, in terms of factuality, and in terms of what is required by every citizen in this country. And my father always used to say, 2 basic things you must know in your country. 1, the law. Have an appreciation of the law. So we know that Rowley and they are not just illegitimate in office, not just that they are prepared to break and breach the law, because there are also laws not only on the statute books, but there are laws of principles and morals and ethics that they have, of course, undermined and destroyed. And you know that it is not right. You know that it is incomprehensible that a prime minister will come up in our faces and not only defend Marlene McDonald at one time, not only defend, of course, Camille Robinson Regis with her money transfer, not only, of course, Darrell Smith and his sexual exploits, not only he himself as a blasted rapist, I talk about Rowley here, and so many instances where, of course, the classification of corruption is perfectly ascribed to such individuals, but has the audacity, and the fact that he has the audacity to tell us and to ask us who, of course, in his administration could be pointed at for corruption is a total and absolute misnomer and a poor sense of reverse psychology, because He tried that, of course, in St. James during the course of the local government election, and he had, of course, to reduce it to conversations with the Prime Minister. In itself, of course, it was a corrupt actor because he put on, of course, a P&M clothes and bringing, of course, all red in the audience, and the potential for generating a violent encounter was real. Because suppose I put on my grey jersey as a Lavantil for Lavantilians, or my party love, or Gary Griffith party put on their blue jerseys, or the UNC put on their yellow and walked into that environment, you must know you're walking into a lion's den. You must know that the hostility will be such that it's possible that it will have been violent. That is the nature of this criminal. But he did that simply because he wanted, of course, to simmer down and to, of course, neutralize what yes, indeed, of course, there was an ad that was supposed to be played. It has not. There was some technical issue, but we will, of course, get that a little later. But the fact of the matter is that we need, of course, to examine critically the nonsense, the asinine nature of Rowley and his dotishness and his inability to manage the affairs of the country, but continue to sell us hogwash, diatribe, and cacophonous babblings of a ambulatory verbalized nature. Yes, indeed. The man has weaponized government against the people. The man has foolishly attempted and calculated and believed that we are so stupid that he and his minions and his ministers accusing themselves hundreds of times. And for us to accept that because, according to him, based on the law, that they are entitled to recuse themselves and full stop. I tell you, me, in any other country that has a respect for democracy, Rowley and his asses would have hightailed out of government already. He lucky we are a law-abiding, by and large, as far as the tolerance of politics and politicians are concerned. I make the distinction because the amount of murders in the country, clearly, and as the international community has said, we are an extremely violent community. So therefore, I cannot in good conscience say categorically that we are complacent, and we are in certain specific regards. Rowley lucky, but I'll tell him, when he gets out of office, you better take what's coming to you. Take what's coming to you. I hope you and those very evil pillars on which you depend and you have crafted will be able to withstand the avalanche, the tsunami. I say no more. That will beset all of you. I know that you are desperate. All this talk will get him even more irascible, more apoplectic, and more desperate, as we saw on the last occasion. And so more mistakes will be made, and more deepening of our animosity against the PNM and this administration. Our anathema will know no boundary as they continue in their evil ways to mismanage, to steal, to corrupt, and to undermine pristine, ostensibly pristine, or originally pristine, or intendedly pristine institutions, such as the office of the president, such as the offices of the Police Service Commission, Commissioner of Police, such as the Integrity Commission, such as the DPP, and probably more significantly, as we have a duty, of course, to treat with a high degree of not just speculation, not just intense focus, not just doing what we must in order to bring attention regionally, hemispherically, and internationally. The EBC, the Elections and Boundaries Commission, yes, we have a duty to monitor the tails and to let them know that this 12 months of 2024 is extended to them. And it must not be said that the population left the EBC to fester and to act inimical to the electorate and the will of the people, as we have seen in 2015, 2020, and the absolutely failed attempt in 2021 or 22 with respect to the THA elections. Yes, people, we have a duty and responsibility to act, and to act in unison and unanimously, not with a majority, unanimously. We know that the devil too has its imps, its followers. We know that. But we also know that evil cannot prevail over good. And good will eventually overwhelm. And the devilish intent and the devilish conduct and the devilish disposition and the devilish and evil, wicked, and the dangerous acts of the PNM under Rowley will soon come to an end. 2025 is beckoning and a begging. Beckoning and a begging, people. And therefore we have a duty and responsibility to be steadfast and to be focused and to make certain that we do what is required to jettison and to, of course, make certain that this evil is annihilated, to the extent to which the PNM itself must be in jeopardy as an institution of evil for political gains. And I told you earlier why I'm convinced. And I've also said that experience is the best teacher. But let me give you one experience. And thus my conclusion. In a meeting set up by, or inviting us, the MLIO program, MLIO, Mobile Lavatil Improvement Organization, which I set up, of course, and trained over 6,000 youths, the same very youths that are now giving trouble, of course, a different crop of them, but certainly no difference from the same communities. Well, Manning asked me, of course, to a meeting when he was, of course, he started, of course, his prime ministerial agenda, or should I say, forte, when the office was at the Twin Towers, Eric Williams. Having, of course, succeeded E.N.I. Robinson. But then, in 1991, and I was invited because I wrote him a letter congratulating him as a prime minister or achieving the role of prime minister, but also cautioning, also admonishing that if it is that the PNM doesn't do good to communities such as Lavatil, Beetham, Silat, Diego Martin, etc. along the East-West corridor, that of course you could bet your bottom dollar that these communities will be active participants in any social upheaval in the future if the PNM administration betray. And guess what? He called me. But when I thought, of course, he was calling me to reason and to, of course, give my rationale and to explain my position on the matter, he called me there to scold me just as how Rowley scolds or attempts to scold people when they talk the truth, such as, of course, even Selwyn Kojo and even, of course, his very own that might have been in his corner at some point in time, but now facing reality and talking about whether it be Jack Warner or I'm talking about, of course, others who have recently have come to the realization that Rowley is not just toxic, evil, wicked, diabolical, but they must gravitate, of course, to the best option for Trinidad and Tobago today, and that is the UNC and Kamala Prasad. Even Pep, Philip Alexander, saying that he was wrong and, of course, apologize. But, of course, apology is irrelevant. What he should be doing, of course, is advocating for his whatever modicum of residual integrity that he would have had, having castigated and cast the evil so broad and deep that is almost irretrievable as far as his condemnation of Kamala Prasad Bisasa and the UNC is concerned, but better late than never, and he must now be talking about numbers and, of course, making certain that the numbers are such that the PNM does not see the light of day politically in spite of their shenanigans and their attempts, of course, to undermine the electoral process and to, of course, engage in the stealing of an election. We saw it, of course, in 2015, we saw it in 2020, and we saw it in the last THA election. You think a dog sucking egg will stop voluntarily? No. Especially if they believe that they are successful or would have been successful by that mechanism. Do you believe that Rowley is not contemplating all the talking of ways to undermine the next election? Well, you have to be living in a fool's paradise. All the talk you're talking. You've seen, of course, roads being paved. You've seen, of course, those boys being spoken to. And you heard, of course, comments. You don't know if you're going or you're coming. A plethora of course, what I consider to be ephemeral, temporary, panacea suggesting that they are youth focused. But I want to tell the youths, and I want to tell the electorate in general, and I want to tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago, I want to tell the world, I want to tell, of course, the hemispheric, I want to tell, of course, the regional observers that Rowley had an opportunity at minimum 6 years ago to do what he's doing today. 6 years ago. Because they told us that they turn around the economy not once, not twice. They told us that they had endless money for COVID. And they told us that of course, that they have a review, a panel of brainstormers to catapult the economy post-COVID. What has happened? No, instead you're talking about what? Property tax now. They reached to that. After you can't borrow again, and our debt to GDP, you ain't telling us what it is, but we know it's almost 100%. He ain't talking that. He ain't talking how much money that he met in the Heritage and Submission Fund, and how much was taken out. You're so damn stupid. You don't know that potential creditors are looking at that. The fact that you have to dip in your sovereign savings. You don't understand that. Now, if you have to reach to that and be that things real bad, you're not like Saudi Arabia or Norway, where their sovereign fund, something similar to the Heritage and Submission Fund, is such that it can afford to dip for years and it will not be exhausted. By the time you take 2 or 3 dips, as we have seen with respect to our reserve, and as we have seen with respect, of course, to the Heritage and Submission Fund, you hardly could make any advancement or augmentation. Any advancement or augmentation, people. So that's not waste time. But of course, Rowley strenuously avoids those kinds of frank discussion on the subject. So you know he's up to no good. You know he's up to his usual trying to hoodwink and deflect. We know that he cannot do better. But trying to hoodwink us so that we can keep them there to do us more evil, because it ain't gonna stop at property tax. You know, let me tell you that one time. The businessmen will be taxed even further if the economy does not, of course, revive, and revivability and sustainability are 2 words that the PNM seem to be unable to comprehend, because they simply cannot bring to fruition the building blocks that are required in order to resurface or revive the economy. And so they revert to what? To tax. In such circumstance, how the hell you creating employment? How, Rowley? You have not told us that. All you're telling us is that Kamala did the SOE. You tell us about Rishmi. I didn't hear him say Section 34, but I wouldn't be surprised. All of which did not affect the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. But when you go and you buy boats unnecessarily for $1 billion, when you went, of course, and you attack OAS and not complete the highway to Point Fortin as it ought to have been done, and you say you get back the people money, the money that they put up front, negotiated by the UNC, well done UNC, and you're going to take it and pretending and lie to the people and tell them that they went bankrupt and therefore you orchestrated the getting of that money and you went to court in order to do it. But you tell them that if things turn out the other way, you'll get back. But no, today, now that things have gone the other way, you somehow don't want to accept the fact that you are an ass, that you are important a specimen of inhumanity, that you are wicked, that you are dangerous, that you are a dunderhead, and that you are unfit for office in this country, whether it be prime minister or otherwise. In fact, you ought not to be in politics at all. Guru my foot, cult my rear, cult my rear. Yes, indeed. So that is the reality. So he went on this tangent, this tangential journey of lies and deception. I'm sorry that I don't have the phone so that you could call in and give me some other areas that you would like me to focus upon and what my views are if you require them. But I thought I should identify those areas that were so poignant, so conspicuous, so evident. And as I said, Rishmi, he talked about crime and criminality and tried to talk about the SOE. All of your crime initiatives has produced increases. And I want you to know that when people like Foster Cummins, you know they're going or coming, when he talks about youth camp and the resuscitation, when he talks about the plethora of youth initiatives, those always was. There may be greater emphasis and a little tweaking, like, for example, the agricultural initiative. But what you should note is that all of them are tokenistic. You know what I say? I say all are tokenistic. When you examine the amount that are going to be the beneficiaries of these programs, a 100 here, a 60 there, a 40 there, and so on and so forth. But they believe that their propaganda agenda will be served when they only say that they're going to do these programs. But when you look and examine critically, you see it's a waste of time. It's just like the road paving program. They paved the main thoroughfare so that most people coming from south and east and so on coming down, let's say on the Churchill Roosevelt Highway, will say, ah boy, they're doing work. But no work to be done in the byways and the minor roads. And this is only for political appearance. It is no different to a photo op. Just like, of course, this woman that you see on the screen, Donna Cox. I don't know why they have so much cock name. You have Cockburn and you have Donna Cox. I don't know why all this cock talk with them names, but let me tell you this. It was Cockburn, her predecessor, Donna Cox's predecessor, who told us that she was proud to take 11,000 people off the food card. It was Donna Cox's turn next when, during the course of the COVID, and people cannot get a healthy supply of the over $12 billion that $22 billion that was allocated for COVID relief. People couldn't get the food hampers. And they start to give you perishable items. And saying how they're supporting, of course, the farmers and them. They're giving you dasheen, they're giving you edos, and they're giving you cassava. So what about the people who don't have a fridge or cannot engage in the preservation of these items? What would have happened to them? As opposed to a can of beans or a can of sardines or a can of corned beef, as the case may be. No. They force that upon you and pay peppercorn money to the farmers And while, of course, I appreciate that and it has its role, it cannot be that when you look at the basket of food, you see a heaping set of potato, yam, dasheen, plantain, and you cannot find an appreciable amount of what? Of canned items that could last for a longer period because of its greater non-perishability. You know what I say? I said because of its greater non-perishability. That is what they sold to us during COVID. And when people go to get the rice and to get sugar and to get flour and to get, of course, other staples, rice, flour, sugar, beans, etc. This Cox woman, another cock name like Cockburn, her predecessor, tell them they're too greedy. You ever hear more arsoness than that? That they're too greedy? And your job is to satisfy them? So I could safely say they thief the money. Rowley and Cox and all of them, they thief the money. They mismanage the money. And then coming back in our faces to look for votes. So we are that stupid to have them stay there to continue to do us evil. I tell Rowley and the laugh is on them. If they feel we that stupid, think again. 1986 was an eye-opener. Well, 2025 will be the death knell for the PNM. It must be. We have no choice. Their sprinklings in the various constituency that they believe they dominate will not help them. Even those, we must view, having been betrayed since the PNM became a modern party. And I say modern here in the context of post-Eric Williams. And what we have seen is that it has become unadulterated, chronic, criminal enterprise, and Balize House is a lasting symbolization of that fact. Let's not waste time. People, of course, I will go to 9:30. As I said, we have, of course, the final movement to make. And I trust that the areas of the madness that is Rowley and his insanity and his insatiable desire for power has created a desperation that is so conspicuous, so obvious, so inevitable that you will have no choice but to relegate these evil elements to the dustbin of political history in this country. We must do so conscientiously. We must do so with a venom and a tenaciousness that shows that we are an intelligent people. And that no way can evil prevail over good. No way evil can prevail over good. That is what we have purporting to be rampaging and deviously in our midst as citizens of this country, given an opportunity and betrayed, perfidious to the hilt. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. Don't forget tomorrow morning, Andy, Mikey, and myself on the ground report. And as we continue, of course, to ensure that's a long, long, hot 12 months for this administration. And I want you to repeat, as we have been inviting you so to do on the ground report. It's time to live better. It's time to do better. It therefore means it's time to eliminate Rowley and his cohorts, opportunistic political parasites, whose raison d'etre is merely to seek office and do us harm. They have weaponized government against the people, and the people must now rise up. And of course, pay and give and attach no mercy to them. So long as the evil, a sense of complacency, they pounce, and they pounce with deadly force. You must not be lured. You must not succumb. You must not gravitate. You must not be enticed. You must tell them in no uncertain terms, what you are providing is what we ought to have been getting over the last 9 years in, of course, incremental form, and that this crescendo that you are projecting, we shall eat you out and then vote you out, because what we are eating is not yours, it's ours anyway. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And as we began, they lie to themselves as they lie to us, and somehow believe that we are that foolish to be constantly been lied to. And as they say, the saying goes, only a fool will do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Only a fool. And I want to tell Rowley and they, it is also said, a fool and his money is soon parted. But in your case, ill-gotten money will pass, because blue lights and silver bracelets are begging and inevitable.
No so entry in 2 days, he boiled down and leave just 3. I had me eye on the lion, because I know he does come with some good ones. But they had a younger fella named Tibo, come from some village there in Tobago. He said his father is Tobago's best fisherman. Catch a fisherman wide 80 feet in span. He had to tighten the boat and swim back to land to get his brother Eric to give him a hand. You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You hear lie?
Teacher Percy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die.
Why, sir? Check it out. Liar the lion, he laughed till he sweat. He said, Mr. Depot, ain't say nothing yet. If you really want to hear about fishing, let me blow your mind. Now listen to something. When you're talking about fish, you just hit the spot. I was hoping you did believe it or not. The fish your father caught, to you it was great, but it's them small fish my father does use for bait. Lion went ahead on points in the show, completely eliminated Mr. Depot. The next man to beat was really outrageous. He asked the judges if he could lie first. The judges asked Lion, the Lion agreed. Say any topic will pick is alright with me. He outrageous, I strong, let we meet head on. And when we done, see who had fit to wear the crown. You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You hear lie?
Teacher Percy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die.
Let it go. Let it go. Shook it up. Yeah. The outrageous say that he knew a tailor comes to making suit. The man is the master. If you show him a man coming wrong a corner, he could make him a suit and don't even measure. A talking about suit, sitting down correct, expertly made and fitting perfect. He used to sew for Shakespeare, make suit for Hamlet, and up to this day yet make a mistake yet. You know the crowd went wild, they couldn't cool down. I say liar, the lion losing the crown. The judges brought the crowd back to order and asked the lion to lie about a tailor. He said my man is the best, Rolf is his name. Cutting cloth, making suit is his game. Don't show him the man, my tailor is class. Just show him the corner where the fella pass, and he gon' make a suit. That is tailor. You hear lie? King liar.
Teacher Percy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die.
Whip it up. Pick it up. Let it go. Move it up. Let it go.
Teacher Percy say